Hi, I am Chris, aka Meekness Fan, and welcome to episode 26 of the Crubcast. We are already at half a year's worth of podcast. That's a scary thought to have.
I don't like that.
I don't like that either,
means...
Sean Wolf Chaos on. What is something you do like?
You, sometimes. More like 33% of the time.
That is more than I usually get. Okay, thank you. Hi, Kevin the Golden Bolt.
Hi, that means that you can see our baby bump. We're 6 months pregnant. Congratulations to M. He's the one delivering. So he's not a doctor, but that's going to be you're going to see a VTuber baby on his screen one day. I'm going to make him do that now.
God.
I can't imagine anything he would object to more than everything you just said.
Yeah, all those words were wrong. Every single one.
I feel like he'd just be like, no.
Well, it's too late. It's on air now, so now you can't stop it.
Hi, Justin J. Tart9. How are you?
Oh,
please don't talk about being pregnant.
The fame.
Talk about it.
The fame really does drag me down.
How did it feel?
Yeah, I've been good.
Craving weird things.
The cramping has stopped. It subsided. I've only eaten peanut butter and pickles twice today.
I mean, that's normal.
But you're not even pregnant.
No, he is.
I did.
Oh, okay.
I literally didn't ask. And then we have Christopher Mykonos fan. Hello, Christopher. What are we doing here today?
Oh, hi. I'm Christopher Mykonos fan.
No, you did introduce yourself. It's fine.
Yeah, I finally remembered for once to introduce myself, and Justin had me like, what? Wait. Oh, hi. So what we're talking about today is game series that lost us that we used to love, but what they could do to win us back. And I know Justin threw it to me because I warned him I'm going to throw it right to him immediately because he kind of stole my first choice. Justin.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that someone was introducing the topic. And I like this topic a lot because it's a very
Justin
good
gave me 50 seconds. He's like, you don't have that episode started? I'm going to do it.
What do you mean? I like this topic a lot because it gives us a lot of jumping off points to really talk about some series that have maybe gone on the wayside. The first one that Chris and I mutually agreed on was Assassin's Creed. Because man, those like first 4 games, because it was Assassin's Creed 1, Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, and Revelations. Those were all really, really, really strong games. And then you got to Assassin's Creed 3, which tried to be a little bit more experimental, but I liked it. A lot of people didn't. And then they took the part of experimentation that people really liked from Assassin's Creed 3 and made it its own Assassin's Creed game in Assassin's Creed 4, which was Black Flag. And that was the point for me where I kind of fell off the series. As a side mode, further.
Sorry, I'll say after Brotherhood it fell off. I don't think Revelations was that good.
You don't think so?
That game was like 5 hours long. It was super short. They changed the multiplayer, which was the one really cool, innovative thing they did in Brotherhood. I liked the idea of them going to Constantinople, but other than that, it just kind of was more game. And it kind of felt like, oh, now we're doing this every year instead of Brotherhood being a one-off because Ezio was so cool.
Yeah, and then they kind of just used Revelations to close off Ezio's story.
Yeah.
And
which is good, at least.
Yeah, and they introduced hook blades, which, I mean, cool.
They never used it again.
Never.
That was the point at which it was like, okay, it's very clear. It's that and bombs. Because they were like, oh, you can customize all your bombs. And they just never at any point went back to that. And so I, not to jump on your game here, but I remember I played 1 and 2 back to back right before Brotherhood was coming out. I bought Brotherhood, put a ton of time into Brotherhood, and then they announced Revelations like a month later, and I was like, oh, I'm never playing these games again. Like I just immediately was like, no, I'm good. I don't need too much of this. I'm good.
Yeah,
it's a shame because I love those games for the short year that I played them.
I wonder if it was even a month. I feel like it was really soon.
It was really quick after. I'm trying to give it some leeway here because I could be misremembering, but it was like because it was that and Fallout New Vegas and Halo Reach all came out the same month or within the same 30-day span, give or take.
And on a high school student's budget, that was not happening. Buying all 3 of those at once.
Yeah,
you get 1, maybe 2 if you're lucky.
Yeah,
I was.
You go.
I was curious, Justin, what made you fall off around 4? Because that's also 3 is kind of what kicked me to the curb, so to speak, and 4 is where I kind of just let go and stopped caring. And not so much on the qualities of 4, but I'm curious where you're at on that.
Like, I don't remember the name. I think it was Edward Conway was the name of the assassin in 4.
Yeah, Edward was 4. I think Connor Kenway was in
3.
Yeah, that was it.
Connor Kenway. Connor Kenway was going from Ezio to Connor. It felt like a really big downgrade in terms of personality of the character you're playing as, because Ezio's like so like well spoken and charming, and then Connor's just like, I don't want to be here, kind of.
Right.
But I really, 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 this was the thing that people really didn't like in 3, but I loved in 3 was the homestead. I loved watching all of these characters in the homestead kind of develop throughout the story, and you keep bringing supplies back to the homestead, and you keep building new things in the homestead, and you just see this whole thing develop as you keep going along the story. I really liked that. I also really liked how they had to get more creative with the verticality because they didn't have the densely populated cities like they did in the first 4 games. And the way they did that was using the forests of colonial America and using those branches as like your like crowded cityscapes, and that was you jumping across from there. The thing that really made me not love it as much in 4 was that they really didn't have any of the really cool vertical aspects that I really liked of Assassin's Creed. Because in my memory, it's like that and Prince of Persia that are the only games that really did that, right?
Sly Cooper.
Like at the time. Sly Cooper.
Sly Cooper did it
at
first.
the time, yeah.
Didn't matter. If it really mattered, it would have gotten more play. I'm just kidding.
Gosh.
They lost a lot of the verticality because you were on the boat most of the time. And they also it was going from island to island, so you didn't have a chance to have super thick, dense jungles or super thick, dense cities. You kind of had a little bit of each, and it really lost me just not being able to have that usual Assassin's Creed gameplay loop. And now the new games have that whole new combat style too, which is a lot more like a Soulsy For Honor kind of deal.
I mean, that's kind of what the games already would have gone to, because they were just Arkham. They were proto Arkham before Arkham came out. Yeah. But the way combat went in third-person adventure games after the Souls games really took hold, they're all kind of that way. And I think that's where those games should have gone, no matter what, combat-wise.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I think you're right, but I just like the fluidity of that Batman, Arkham, Spider-Man, hit dodge.
Yeah. Which they still can do that, from what I understand. The thing that really killed me was 3 should have been one that I loved, but again, because of the way that they just forced Brotherhood or Revelations, and they forced that annualization. That's around the time that they fired off. I believe they fired off, or they moved the person responsible for writing the meta story of the present day Assassin's Creed stuff. Yeah. So it was around Brotherhood where it's like, okay, now it's kind of going off the rails, but it almost works when you fight the Pope. And then swear jar. And then for Pope, not for the other word. And then in Revelations, they do something even like dumber. I don't remember what that one was, but I know what they do at the end of 3, and they just wipe the story that was continuing these games all along. Even if it was hanging on by a thread, I really liked that meta story was there. So once they killed that, I'm like, I don't really care anymore. Like, now it's like, whatever. And it's a shame because... go ahead, Chris, go ahead.
Oh, that's just what I was going to mention back to Justin, because I like that Justin had like actual gameplay reasons. But for me, it was basically, I cared so much about that modern story. I was so interested in that and where that was going. I know that's kind of an unpopular opinion looking back, because so many people just cared about the main past stuff. But
I don't think it's unpopular. I think it's just that now in retrospect, we all say we thought it was stupid. I think that's kind of like a changed opinion sort of thing, because it turned out badly. That's the way I see it, at least, because people were gripped by that in 1 and 2.
In my circles, at least, where I was out online, people were not into it, and I felt like a weirdo. I was like, I think it's cool. I want to see where it goes. I want to see what's up, right?
I don't care that he's related to every assassin in existence. Swear jar again. Excuse me. But I'm paying a lot this week. But yeah, no, it was that. But then it was also that the first game on next gen was Unity, which was French Revolution, the most primed for Assassin's Creed content that any Assassin's Creed game could have history-wise. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here, but the French Revolution is one of the most interesting points in history. Full stop. Yeah. It's one of the most important moments, important pivot points into how we look at modern society. And so for that game to have been A, the one that had multiplayer, which is really rad, and B, a buggy mess until they eventually fixed it, but no one cared by that point, it just kind of killed everything dead.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what got me, because the French Revolution should have brought me back.
Yeah, and they have that fully fleshed out, modeled version of Notre Dame. Like, they did a phenomenal job of bringing French Revolution Paris to life. And I was so burned out by the franchise from Black Flag that I just never even gave it a second look. It's a good thing that they're taking that boat stuff and putting it into its own game, right?
Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones.
It's only been a decade. Yeah. It'll come around eventually. Sean, I was curious if you had any
input. I've played a little bit of Assassin's Creed. It never really clicked with me. I played 1 and 2, and I thought it was okay. I really like Black Flag. Black Flag I had a lot of fun with, but I think it was more so that I was a pirate than anything. So it's just outside of that, I guess the most Assassin's Creed stuff I have would be some similarities to that in the Arkham games and even Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, even though those are kind of like their own things. But there's a lot of similar DNA in between the two. But other than that, I don't really have too much experience with Assassin's Creed, if I'm being honest. I watched some friends play, but it just never clicked with me. My friends tried to make me play Revelations, but I was like, no.
If you didn't play Brotherhood either, it wouldn't have made sense.
It's just Brotherhood 2. And I love Brotherhood. Brotherhood's one of my favorite games from that era, because I also, I was studying Latin at the time in school, so, I loved the fact that we went to Rome, even if it was, crumbled Italy Rome. It was all of Rome. It was huge. And it was so cool to see that specific area, and then see Ezio recreate the Brotherhood and all that stuff. And then Revelations is just more of that, except with worse multiplayer.
Worse multiplayer and hook blades. Oh. Don't forget the hook blades. The hook blades are important.
There's no reason for them to have had multiplayer, but Brotherhood did it so uniquely in that weird spy versus spy. It was 8 players, all free for all, and it's a circle of you hunt down one person, they're hunting the next person, and so you're each hunting somebody else in the circle. And so you had to hide from your chaser while chasing somebody down and figuring out which person in the crowd with that character model is the assassin. And it was so neat.
Cool. It's really cool.
They Call of Duty it in Revelations because they added a bunch of extra perks and you got to hit level 14 to get this perk and all that stuff. And it was
makes sense. But
didn't they have Liberation in the middle of all that too?
Liberation was the Vita game that came out with 3.
Yeah.
With 3. It was the 2012. So yeah.
Yeah.
And did Rogue come out with Unity or Syndicate?
Rogue came out with Unity because that was the last gen match to Unity. Because for some reason they made a last gen and next gen game.
And you hear that one's good, but by that point, who on earth is going to
go back
the most hardcore?
Dissed at their Xbox 360, yeah.
Especially the thing with Rogue was you were playing as a Templar. That was a really interesting concept that I guess they didn't actually play with, from what I understood. And then
that checks out.
So from what I'm hearing, it kind of sounds like it's more so Burnout with the series, where they just keep doing similar things over and over again, and they have these cool ideas, but it's just
it's a Ubisoft game. That's all.
Yeah.
For me,
same with Far Cry.
Yeah, for Far Cry especially.
Yeah.
For me, it's a weird thing because in some ways it's Burnout, in some ways it's being too different. Because I fell off of 4 just because I didn't want a pirate game. I wanted Assassin's Creed 4 to be a continuation.
Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And for what it is, I'm sure it's fun and everything. I didn't really put any time into it just because I didn't want that game, right? But
yeah,
it's sometimes it not being what I want it to be, which, hey, that's selfish. The open world games exist and I've tried them. I watched my friend play them and I fell asleep during them. So I know those aren't for me. I'm not going to put any time into those games. But even Mirage just came out, and that's supposedly an old school Assassin's Creed game. It takes place in Baghdad, I think. But everything I looked into about the story and everything wasn't interesting. So if I sit down and think about what can the series do to win me back when it's already making a game of that style that I kind of want, I guess I just want something incredibly specific from this series for it to win me back, which
it's of its era.
It's of its era.
That's really what it is.
And I don't want them to go back and retcon anything. And I'm not going to spoil Assassin's Creed 3's modern day ending, but it really just felt like they were again, the lead writer left, so it's easy to at least assume no one there had that much of an attachment to what was going on, and it was maybe one person's vision leading that, perhaps. But the way it ended was so... I don't think you even got to like the modern day war, which I think is what I was actually hoping the game would eventually lead to, is now you're Desmond and you're playing in a modern city, right?
That would be sick.
How does all this stuff graft into a new age game with like actual modern day humans running around?
Watch dogs. I
guess Aiden Pierce and his iconic cap is where that line of thinking has to go eventually. But I kind of just want them to say, screw the modern day ending of 3. Screw making money on this one, because no one anymore cares. Let's make a game for Chris and make a Desmond Miles Assassin's Creed and just actually go back and try to capture that weird flash in the pan 2012 conspiracy theory, Y2K end of the world bullshit nonsense.
Yeah.
And just kind of throw shit at the wall, and maybe if it doesn't stick, it sucks, and I come back and I'm like, why on earth did they do that? But I just want to...
Yeah. Just want to see it.
This used to be like one of my favorite series. Like it was Sonic and Assassin's Creed and then whatever else back then I was into. But like I was into Assassin's Creed. I would read up on the story all the time. I would play the games over and over. I liked the first game. I got all the flags like an idiot. I'm one of those weirdos. And I just wanted that end chapter that we never really got. Like turning to the last page and then suddenly there's like 30 more books behind it, right?
Remember when they had they cut 2 chapters of 2 out for DLC in the middle?
Yes, I do remember that.
And I bought those DLC chapters and I played them.
And they weren't that good.
No, that's why they were DLC, I guess. But yeah, no, it very much felt like it was like the WWE sort of thing where they were just writing by the seat of their pants once they added 2 midquels in. Because it was supposed to be 1, 2, 3. I don't think Brotherhood was ever supposed to be planned. It was just partway through production. They got the idea that struck them of, oh, what if we did more with Ezio? And then they got the idea that struck of, what if we made infinite money by making one of these every year? And it just, once you get to that point, like you can't write a telenovela and have it be quality, you know?
Yeah, you're not writing you're not writing for art, you're writing for the next one. And that just never really works out. I think that what would get me back into Assassin's Creed, I think, is Chris kind of hit it on the head. I didn't really think about it, but I think that does really excite me. The idea of having an Assassin's Creed in the modern day, with like the hidden blades and the creeping over roofs and stuff like that. I mean, that's basically what Spider-Man is. Like the Insomniac Spider-Man games, you're creeping on roofs, you're doing the stealth.
The Insomniac Spider-Man games are infamous, modernized, if anything.
That's true.
Like Infamous is never coming back because of Spider-Man.
I'm thinking of that's fine. No one cares about Infamous. It's fine.
Oh gosh. Somewhere Brody is shaking violently. Like, what is he saying?
That's why he's not on this episode. But I'm thinking like the stealth segments in Spider-Man 1 and 2 in like that modern cityscape. That's kind of what I want. Maybe like in like a Mirror's Edge world, kind of similar to that, the way that that's all stylized. But if you're like in a third person world where you're an assassin and you're hiding in piles of paper that are like from a dystopian like office building, that's the thing I'm thinking.
God, I'm just thinking of like because a couple of days we did like the worst possible video game sequels we could think of, and I just remember like I made Assassin's Creed Chicago, and it was you just play as like a guy who works in a restaurant, and you just live in Chicago.
Jaden.
Yeah, Uber driver named Jaden, who just has to call his dad for money from time to time, and you're still an assassin, but like you live in Chicago, just a normal everyday Chicago, and you have to Uber yourself everywhere.
I'm a fan of that.
I could even reuse Watch Dogs World because no one played that.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it has to be Chicago, specifically Chicago.
I mean, they tried to reuse Watch Dogs World by making another Watch Dogs game, but then that didn't work either.
I mean, that was a different... I mean, like, just reuse Chicago 1-to-1. Like,
here's
the whole map from Chicago, but now you can parkour a little bit better instead of hacking phones and making people...
Yeah, now you can, like, jump fences.
Expose texts or whatever they did in that game. I forgot.
It was what you said. It was raise the parking stoppers from roads to smash cars, maybe if they're chasing you.
Yeah.
I think that was about it. But yeah, I guess to close it off, Yeah, I'm with you, Justin. And I think maybe part of it was my overactive imagination. Like, they were so against showing the outside world in those games. You could look outside the windows of the first game and everything was like bleary and streaky and white. And then 2, you're like in hiding and they're like, oh, we can't let you out in the outside world. I'm like, what's going on?
What's going on? Like, I got to see that. What's going on? Yeah.
Is it like War of the Worlds out there? Like, what's going on? Or is it just normal and you don't want to be seen? So I was always a little curious. I feel like if they wanted to back then, they could have just went weird with it and super stylized. But I think
I don't know that they could have, because the hardware would have limited them. I always felt like they were holding off until the next gen to do anything with like Assassin's Creed 4 being Desmond's game, because PS3 realistic cities, they didn't look good. They didn't like modern cities. Like, you ever play what was that game? The Prototype. That game sucked.
I didn't play that
game.
I did play Prototype.
Sucked.
I did play Prototype.
It was just Infamous but worse, but with a blander city.
It was even Xbox 360 Infamous.
Yeah, even it was on PS3 too. Even just that it was multi-platform, but they were both New York. But the infamous New York at least had destroyed buildings. That was kind of cool. Like, it was like, oh, here's a whole section of the city that got hit by a giant electric thing. But it was still bland. Like, it took till 2 for them to make something interesting, and it was just that it was New Orleans, which no one did. So I don't know. It would have been tough to do. It would have been tough to do an interesting, realistic, futuristic, modernish city in the open world on 360 era, I think. Yeah. So I always thought they were just trying to kick the can to make it until 4, and then
they lost the plot because Ubisoft saw money.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't we all?
Shame.
Which I mean, they had that weird Assassin's Creed game on PSP too. That was a weird one.
If you want to help us see money, go to patreon.com/crub. For as little as $5 a month, you can enter the founder tier, which gets you a bunch of bonus content, including exclusive movie and TV discussions of recent movie releases or TV releases, such as Ted Lasso seasons 1 through 3. Nicco has a bunch of music interviews where he makes each of us listen to a specific artist to broaden our horizons and kind of test us a little and talk about that kind of stuff. A bunch of other stuff. All of our live streams are left over there in VOD form. So starting soon, Trav and I are going to be playing Overcooked on Twitch, twitch.tv/crub_official. If you were around for the charity room back in summer, we're doing that, but just the 2 of us because we were a well-oiled machine. So we're going to go and get 3 stars in every Overcooked stage ever, maybe. And that'll go over to the Patreon as well. A bunch of fun stuff. Go to youtube.com/@crubofficial for the video version of these podcasts that come out every Friday. Audio form, crub.org. Bunch of other fun stuff. Just follow all those things, especially the YouTube. Leave us a review. Leave us a mean comment. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the plug. I was going to do it. I haven't done it in so long.
You set it up for me, so it was right there.
I also want to shout out something I forgot to at the beginning of the episode. Hello to all of our listeners in Norway. Because apparently for a week, we were Norway's number 11 gaming podcast, and I don't know why. But hello.
Yeah.
Shout out to Norway.
The number 11 gaming podcast in Norway on Apple Podcasts. So we're going to get to number 1. We're going to be the number 1 gaming podcast in Norway. It's going to happen. All of our Norway listeners, tell your friends, tell your family, have them leave reviews as well.
Yes.
Because we want to get to number 1 in Norway, and then we're gonna pick a country and we're gonna take over one by one, like it's Plague Inc.
Plague Inc.
Oh, we should have started with Madagascar, but now it's too late.
No, that could be like top 5 that we get.
Yeah. We found out, we were searching random stuff and we were like, oh, we're the number 257 podcast in Norway. What? and then we found out we were at number 11 the week before, and it's like, oh shit. We gotta make this happen.
Yeah.
So if you're in Norway, leave a review, leave a comment somewhere. I just want a show of hands to be like, hey, I'm partially doxing myself. Here I am. Thank you.
I don't know anybody from Norway who listens. Like, I can't think of anybody from Norway in like my fan base or my community. So when we found that out, it was like, okay, Australia makes sense because Mini and TK Hub World are both Australian. US makes sense, obviously. Canada makes sense because Brody's the one person there.
Yeah.
Not the one listener
of a country.
Not the one listener. He's the only it's like that one show, The Last Man on Earth, but it's just Brody in Canada.
Yeah, The Last Man in Canada.
Yeah.
I'd watch that.
G Fuels, crying.
Drinking the G Fuel.
Yeah. God, that's all he drinks.
God, Sean, I want to let you talk. What have you got for me? I would judge you.
So it's natural that you should judge me. Everyone should judge me, actually. But so I actually have 2 games that I wanted to bring up. One I might bring up later. We'll see. But I was a huge slut for Overwatch when it came out. Like I was so into it. I did like ranked, I did competitive play. I was all about it for like the longest time. And then my friends kind of fell off, so like I didn't really have a team to go with. I'd still do ranked from time to time, but like it wasn't the same when you're not in a party chat with people you actually know. Because I like to play tanks, but I also do damage. But anyway, so Overwatch 2 comes out, and they made some of the most head-scratching decisions ever. So, like, I get that...
I don't want to cut you off, but I don't think we can just go, then Overwatch 2 came out. Like 7 years passed in that time span. You can't just say, oh yeah, Overwatch was good, and then 7 years later 2 came out and sucked. No. We gotta go the whole...
God. Okay, so like they didn't really they didn't add too much to the Overwatch format. They kept like teasing these ideas that they were going to bring to Overwatch 2, and that they were going to bring to like the gameplay, and they just never really brought a lot of like PvE stuff that like really intrigued, because like they always teased about story-based missions and things like that. And then
that was the point of 2. 2 was supposed to be the story game.
2, yes. And so they come out with 2. They get rid of 1 tank, which I'm not a fan of. I know some people like, but I don't like the idea of getting rid of a tank and then like changing a lot of stuff, because that's the only real thing that they changed. Like I have put more hours into Overwatch 2 than I probably ever should have. But
it seriously felt like they just took people away. It was weird.
Yeah.
For clarity for non-Overwatch people, taking away a tank means going from 6 teams to 5-person teams, right?
Yes. So you had 6 teams, which were 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and 2 healers. But now it's 1 tank, 2 DPS, and 2 healers.
That's for the ideal makeup, right? Like you can still change whatever, you can play whatever character you want. As long as someone else hasn't played them, right?
Depends on your... If
you're playing ranked, no.
Yeah, if you're playing ranked, you have to be those 5. But interesting. Yeah, it's because you do need a healer with your tank, like pretty much no matter what. But they set up Overwatch to have like off tanks, and then they had to rework everybody. Sombra is still messed up, and I love Sombra. But anyway, so Overwatch 2 comes out. The battle pass is just a whole mess. They really messed with like the fan base, because they were, again, the whole reason they made Overwatch 2 was for the story mode and whatever, and not Bobby crap. But they promised so much. They haven't delivered on pretty much any of it. And so currently they have it's all about the money, which they
just re-released the same game again just to sell it to you, and then they said they were going to put extra things into that new version that you bought, and then and then they actively said we're not doing it.
Yeah, and then the progression system's like so much worse than the first game, because like the first one you get like loot crates and you get a bunch of stuff, and it's like, okay, cool, but like now like you have to earn coins, and by getting the coins, even just playing free, you have to put like so many hours just to buy like 1 costume, whereas before you could buy like a crate and like maybe you'd get like 1 or 2 things that you didn't have before, but then you get like extra coins because you had, something you didn't have before.
Right.
I mean, you had a duplicate. I mean,
which they definitely did that to try and get around all the loot box laws that were coming out.
Yeah, which I get, but at the same time, it's like if
you're part of the reason why these laws are being made, then I don't know.
Yeah. But so not only that, so currently they have a battle pass, and this one upsets me. They have a battle pass going on currently, where the final one is like a Lilith costume, because Diablo 4, Blizzard, all that fun stuff. But you have to pay for the costume, and it's not like a $5 skin. I think last time I looked, it was $20. You have to pay $20 for this one skin.
That's almost as much as Lightning McQueen and Rocket League cost, and that's actually good though.
God,
what the heck?
I would buy it.
Wait,
I never get spending more than $5 for a costume. I never get it.
Let me walk back and understand.
Do you not get that, Justin?
Yeah, if you of all people, Justin. Yeah. No, sorry, just to clarify, do you pay for the battle pass in Overwatch 2 and then the costumes on top of it? You can buy the battle pass, because there's some things you're just not going to be able to get, in the free game, which is kind of, it is what it is. Right.
But with that said, like the progression is just so daunting in that game anymore, where it's just like it feels like you're just bashing your head against the wall over and over and over and over and over, and it doesn't really give you much incentive to play. Like I don't know, it's just I love the character designs. I love a lot of the ideas that like every character has like a counter to another character and so on and so forth. But the issue for me is it lost a lot of its soul because it just felt like they threw it out there. And I just sit here and I wonder, like, what did you spend all that time developing, those 7 years, to make Overwatch minus a tank?
Especially near the end of Overwatch 1's lifespan and the lead up to 2. Because they stopped putting stuff out for 1, but the idea was like, well, okay, 2 is coming out, so I guess we'll just hold off and wait for that, right? But then 2 was...
And the thing that bothers me, personally, is all my stuff did not transfer over with my my account, because I didn't have my PlayStation account linked with my Battle.net account, and then when I tried to do it, it was like, all right, cool. Anyway, you missed your deadline, so you don't get everything that you were supposed to.
Homework assignment? Sorry.
Deadline?
Yeah, there was a deadline. It was just...
Chris
but anyway,
this week.
I hate it. I hate it.
I said Chris is eating this week on the swear jar.
On the swear jar, yeah.
Oh, shoot. I caught that one.
But I don't know if any of you like really got into Overwatch.
I did.
I casually played it for a few months. Yeah.
I got into the beta and I played 1 hour of it, and then I was like, just the same as with Destiny, I was like, cool, I never need to play this again.
That's fair.
Never did.
No, I mean, it was a thing that my friends and I would play in college, and it was like one of our things what we could do because it was on PC. And it was also crossplay, like technically, so you could play with other platforms too. It was like one of the first crossplay games that was really big at the time. And it was a ton of fun messing around in a lot of the modes that were like you could make, like they basically had custom lobbies, like custom games in Halo. But you could set them up to be like, oh, there's no cooldowns on your skills and stuff like that, so you can just fly around with Junkrat and stuff like that. Yeah,
like I used to play like Lucio Ball, where you just like would run around in like this little soccer field and just like push this ball back and forth and just play soccer like that all day.
It was literally Rocket League, but Lucio. It was great.
Yeah,
and it had a lot of charm at the beginning. I actually had a box of Lucio O's on my shelf back in the day.
God.
Oh my. Were those tasty? Like did you ever eat them?
They were just kind of like vanilla flavored, but they were colored to be yellow and green. They weren't great.
You should put them in a bowl with your new Roy figure and put milk in it.
The people who are listening to this episode, in the pre-show, which is why you should watch the pre-show on Twitch or YouTube, wherever we're streaming that week. I got a new Roy statue and I unboxed it on the pre-show for everybody to watch.
He dropped it twice. It was really cool.
Yeah, so you gotta subscribe to the Patreon to see that, because that's where it lives now.
All pre and post show content is only live or for the patrons. So.
Exactly.
And every Patreon we get, that's also another $1 towards the jar that it's going in.
True. Yeah. But anyway, they had such cool ideas for that first year of Overwatch, where it really felt alive, where they had the snowball fight, and they had Lucio Ball, and they had the Olympics, because the Olympics were that year. So they had like different themes, and then just as live service games go, when a lot of that creativity starts to drain, there's not as much cool content that really makes you to want to come back and play your game anymore.
Yeah, and that's why that's why Overwatch 2 was like so exciting, because it was like they had progressions for certain characters where you could like do PvE and like get better with them like on your own time. They had all these ideas for story modes, because like Overwatch characters have some of the like craziest lore, but like you would never know it just by playing the game. And again, they just like completely dropped the ball. I'm sorry, Kevin, I cut you off. You can stab me.
No,
now.
I was gonna say, as live service games go, it was also a full price game. It's not just a live service game. It's a $60 game. Like it wasn't Rocket League, where it was technically $20, but it was free because everyone got it on PS Plus. It wasn't Fortnite, where it's free unless you bought the original version, I guess. But even then, like it was a $60 game, and it stayed that way. I don't think it ever went free to play.
No,
right?
Well, actually, I don't.
Maybe by the end.
Did Overwatch 2 go to free to play?
Overwatch 2 was free to play, But
it wasn't gonna be though. That was the thing, is that
they wanted you to pay for that.
Yeah.
They dropped the PvE, and then that's when it went free to play, I think.
Yeah. Because then that's whenever because then they shut down the server for Overwatch 1, so people would download Overwatch 2, and it was all like, make sure you link your account from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2, and make sure it's the BattleNet thing. And I mean, they didn't transfer all my stuff over. I got a lot of stuff, because thank God, because if I didn't get my Pharah outfits that I spent hours to get, I'd be pissed. But and Reinhardt, those are my two mains, but no one really cares about that. But another game that really came to mind was
Sean. Wait.
I'll shut up.
You didn't tell us how it could win you back.
Oh, just by adding the stuff they should have added since day one when they announced Overwatch 2. Just do the stuff you said you were going to do. Make the story missions. Do the progression. Actually, well, loot boxes.
Give you the game they sold you?
Yeah, just be what you were supposed to be. Like, that is the biggest issue for me, is that they promised so much and then took it all away. And they even made like a new character now. I forget his name, but he's basically Maui.
Moana.
But he looks a lot of fun because I like playing tanks because I have a savior complex. But it's like, sure,
actually Maui from Moana?
Yeah.
No.
It's
not actually, but like,
it's like great value Maui. Like, it's like just
okay, because Gibraltar's also Maui from Moana. So I was like, wait,
this is more Maui from Moana. This is change your
travel tattoos and everything. Yeah.
Okay.
They just were like, hey, what if we just put Maui in this? Which again, he has to do with that. No one cares about the lore. I'm shutting up. But yeah, just do the stuff that you said you're gonna do, and I'll be back.
I think that's how I would have gotten more back into it, I guess, because I played for maybe 3-4 months with my friend. And even in that span, just the grind of getting into games with people who are trying very hard, even in casual.
Yeah.
Playing on the same maps. And then maybe once in a while you get thrown a new map, and like maybe once in a while you get thrown a new character. But after a while, it's like I needed something else to really keep invested in that, right? I think I dropped off right when Doomfist was added, for reference, if that's even his name, the Fist guy.
Doomfist.
Yeah.
Doomfist.
And I think that's why if they'd renounced all their weird Hong Kong isms at the time, the weird stances they took with all that stuff in their competitive scene, because that always left
they killed their own competitive scene.
They straight up killed their own competitive
but then
scene.
Also they killed it recently.
They just killed Overwatch League. They were just like, we're done.
Yeah, it's like, what was even the gain of doing that weird thing in the first place?
There were Overwatch teams. Like, that was one of the first, like, proper, like, cities had teams.
Yeah.
The team, and I think London always won.
I don't care.
I think so. I don't know.
Go ahead, Justin.
They have a building. They have an entire stadium that they built for the Overwatch team in Philadelphia.
Yes.
And the Overwatch team doesn't exist anymore. So I don't know what they're doing with that building.
It was owned by the same people that own the Wells Fargo Center and owned a G4.
Yeah.
So it was probably used for the G4 base for a little while, I'm going to guess.
Probably.
Not anymore. I was going to say, to take this in a different direction, I had a couple games that I was going to mention that I could think of that I don't really have good answers on how to make them better, but I can say how they lost me. Halo, just all of it. It just got bungled.
It's here again.
It just got bungled. Nobody won the Bungie 343, the Bungie 343 Microsoft split. Everyone lost that.
Yep.
There's no way to bring it back. It's dead. They've shown that it's not even like a B tier game to them anymore. It's done. So that's dead. It's not changing. I wish it would, but they've shown for over a decade they don't have any idea what they're doing.
It's all
and I don't
weird
say that about developers
stuff too. Not to jump on you here, but it's kind of reminds me of the Death by a Thousand Cuts thing, because recently the thing with Halo Infinite was that they're making the armor sets work for everything now or whatever, right? They were.
Oh, are they? It took them 2 years after the game came out for that, and 3 years after it was supposed to come out. Cool.
They're doing that, but since it now technically equips onto more pieces or whatever, how it works in the game, they're going to charge more for them.
Yeah.
Why?
You have 10 players left.
It's like they had the option between good PR and bad PR, and was like, well, what about bad PR?
Remember when season 4 launched, right around E3, it wasn't in their E3 sizzle reel for Microsoft.
Yeah, I remember that.
They didn't mention Halo at E3 at all.
Easiest thing in the world
that's
to
not the
throw
one.
out.
That's not the one I was going to mention, especially when it was Microsoft. E3 wasn't that good. It was all. I don't remember what it was there at this point, honestly. Sea of Thieves, probably. Whatever.
I think it was Fable. That was their Fable. They were like Fable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't even show much gameplay of Fable.
No, it was just a
frog.
CG trailer. Yeah,
the frog eating something. It was
like
a Fable.
But that wasn't what I was going to mention, because we've gone over that a few times on the podcast before, and there's nothing more to say. Another one that came to mind was Need for Speed. It only lost me because they just kind of lost their way as they moved away from the original team, and now it's Criterion that does all the Need for Speed. Mm-hmm. So Burnout and Need for Speed both kind of died from the same merger of Criterion taking over Need for Speed, because the games are all kind of samey now. I don't know what you do to fix that problem, but like the early, like Most Wanted, Carbon sucked, but like that era, Most Wanted, even Pro Street, they were just so good, and I don't know how you bring that like almost like a mid-2000s grungy vibe back to them, where they're just kind of arcadey and stupid, because people want super realistic racers now.
I'd worry if they tried to intentionally go back to that, it would just fall flat and feel try hard or weird or off, right?
I think Ghost Games made the most recent 3. It was the Untitled Need for Speed 2015, Heat, and the new one that just came out. The one that like has like the underground hip hop scene aesthetic. I can't remember the name, but those are apparently all really good. Like those apparently kind of brought it back. Whatever the case, there's not much to add to that either, because I don't know what you can do to bring it back. Instead, the way that I want to go is talk about a game series that had lost me that did somehow make it back, to kind of take it a little more positive instead of us waxing hopeful and sad the entire time.
Remember that? Remember that good?
Remember when the shit was good? It's not good anymore. Instead of waxing negative about all these things, I'm going to talk about something that's not still good, but that still won me back anyway, and that's Pokemon. I don't think it's controversial to say that Pokemon is not very good right now. It's probably at the lowest point that it's been in terms of game quality. Scarlet and Violet are a disaster and a travesty against all things man and God. And yet, I enjoyed them. I enjoyed Violet a lot. I didn't anticipate that I would. It made me go and get Arceus, which I enjoyed even more, because that game's really actually good, despite... Remember when that game was the one that, it looked bad? Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It turns out we didn't know what we had.
No, that game, like, even seeing it, I was kind of also a little like, I don't know how I feel about this, but, like, I really like how it looks battle-wise, so, I'll give it a shot, and I was really surprised how well it was done.
Now, let me go back and say when Pokemon lost me, because it's lost me a couple times. One, just from the usual growing up that happens. When I had Gen 1, 2, and 3, of course, though I never played the Hoenn games because I had Leaf Green and my friend had Hoenn. So we just kind of traded and had like a near complete dex. I thought Diamond and Pearl looked stupid, and then I got Platinum, and it was one of my favorites. I fell into Heart Gold, and that put 1,000 hours into that game. And then something about Gen 5, I've said this before on the podcast, I think. It didn't sit right with me, the idea of back when this was still very much gotta catch 'em all, that they would lock you to exclusively new Pokemon for the first set of Black and White. And I still disagree with that decision, especially since now there's Legends Arceus where there are Unova Pokemon, and we find out that's not that far away. Like, there are regions further away that have Kanto Pokemon in them now. So let's not pretend.
That was a weird one. Like, for first time playthrough, I was like, yeah, sure. But if you ever wanted to replay it or do like challenge runs or anything, that was such a weird limiting choice.
You're limited.
And to clarify, like, my thing is, like, obviously every region has a bird, but most regions still also had Pidgey or something. And I liked having my Pidgey or my Starly. I liked having one safe Pokemon that I was like, I know what you do, so I can like have you there in the background in a pinch if I need you. Even with new moves and new, when the physical special splits, for example, all that stuff. Even as they changed the mechanics, there was some level of, okay, there's some known with the unknown. I didn't need a new Geodude. We don't need another rock that's just a rock. We can just have the same one. Save your energy. Anyway, I fell off around then because I did not like that decision whatsoever. And I didn't pick it back up until Sun and Moon. And with Sun and Moon, they got me with the advertising. They got me with the 20th anniversary. Oh, it's a celebration, whatever. And I bought Sun and Moon, and I actually did enjoy them somewhat, mostly. Like, I don't remember anything about the story besides the main beats, but I remember getting really annoyed that, there's like 3 hours where you do nothing. The Skyward Sword effect. And I remember I enjoyed the game for what it was. And then I also said to myself that if this is the direction that they're going, I'm probably out at the next game. And that's partly because they did the opposite of what I wanted from Gen 5, where they had only new Pokemon for the first Gen 5 game. And then I know that obviously there's Black and White 2. I was already like dumb teenager. Like, I don't want it. It's stupid. Also, I think my DS broke by that point. So they went from that into Sun and Moon, where I hadn't played any of Gen 5 or 6. And now, obviously, I'm now playing 7. So there are 300 Pokemon, like 1/3, 1/4 of the total dex that I don't know. And half of the Pokemon I see in the first area are Kanto. And I don't hate Gen 1. You know, it's like I'm not one of those anti-Gen 1 or pushback people, but I shouldn't be only seeing the same Pokemon over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, and not only are you seeing those, you're seeing like a Alolan Rattata. So it's like it's technically different.
Yeah. It's got Dark type now. Cool. And that just annoyed me in the opposite way, because there's a balance, and they had struck that balance successfully with every game up until, in my opinion, Gen 5, from what I had understood. And I'm sure Black and White 2 were better about that.
They were much.
And I'm sure Gen 6 are probably pretty okay about that, considering that they only had 60 new Pokemon. There's probably some balance they struck.
But variety in Gen 6 is great if you ever do wind up going to that. Like, you were constantly like, I don't know what to keep on my team, because there's always like a cool new option coming in.
Yeah. And that's what you want. Like that's the exact, especially with Megas in that gen specifically, they had a new way of making old Pokemon new. Not that I ever really liked the Mega idea on paper. I thought that was a little too over the top Digimon-esque in the way that I've always seen it. I know it's not Digimon, but that's just kind of like, I was like, oh, it feels lesser than what I expect from Pokemon. Anyway, I've not played Gen 8. I have it now because I enjoyed Gen 9 so much, but it was a little bit of it wasn't really the Dexit stuff, but it was the statements that they had made around that point. I didn't get hung up on it. I just kind of said, I'm done. I don't need to have this wasted energy in my life. I don't need to go on Twitter and be angry. I just stopped talking about them and stopped paying attention to them. And so now I'm really excited to go back to Gen 8 whenever I do, because I know nothing about it other than the weird Leon. Leon?
Yeah.
Leon.
Yeah.
And his weird brother. I know them.
No. Hop is the brother. Leon
is the brother. Yeah.
Yeah, Leon and his weird brother.
Yeah. I agree with a lot. So I didn't play Black and White. I played X and Y, and that kind of lost me. Sun and Moon, I definitely agree. Like, Sun and Moon kind of like started to win me back a little bit. And then I played Sword and Shield. And Sword and Shield was very much like a very up and down experience for me. I overall really enjoyed it, but there was a lot that I was like missing. And I did not have high hopes for Scarlet and Violet. And like you said, it is not a good finished game, but oh my god, do I love it.
Like, I don't know how it worked. It's not like it's the concept of the open world Pokemon game that worked. It's badly done.
Yeah, but
it's just poorly. Like, it's like Arceus does it so much better.
Yeah,
and it was just, there's something about it that there was just the pure enjoyment factor that clicked with me again.
Yeah,
where I was just running around throwing Pokeballs, not paying attention, not thinking about the game. I don't want to say I felt like a kid again, because as a kid, I wasn't dunking on games this much. But, you know, looking at a game that runs at 4 frames per second and the windmill runs at 1, you can't help but dunk on it. And there's some weird, stupid charm factor that comes from, how did they let this through?
Yeah,
and I guess I turned that into a positive in my head instead of a negative. And it's a negative, to be clear. It's really bad.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it, and I turned my brain off, and now I have so many Pokemon cards over there because of you bastards.
I literally have watched you and Justin open like new Pokemon cards in front of me and just play them while we're at like too many games, and I'm just sitting there like, I have no idea what.
Oh, wait till Crubcella. We got so many decks.
Oh
now,
my god, we have a ton of decks now. We're bringing so many.
I'm bringing Wo-Chien. I'm bringing that Wo-Chien fire. I don't care.
Oh, Wo-Chien.
But yeah, it was just, I'm happy to say that somehow a game not only didn't change, it got worse, and somehow that turned it around for me simply because I stopped paying attention, and then I saw my friends playing it, and I was like, I want that, and I got it, and it was bad, and I liked it.
God.
It's a strange game. It's one where if I sit down and like analyze any specific parts of it, I come up short pretty quickly, right? I don't think the world is very interesting. I don't particularly like navigating it even. I think
the towns suck. The towns are awful.
Suck.
Yeah. They're so unmemorable, it's painful.
There's one interior.
Climbing around is just kind of a weird chore, watching this thing leapfrog hump a mountain, and then maybe you're going the way you want.
Inside you and you get into a fight. Like,
when
they got rid of the shiny jingle.
That didn't help either.
Why'd they get rid of it? There's no reason to get rid of it.
Remember, Chris, when we went around hunting for the Paldean form Tauroses, each version, for like an hour, and we couldn't find it, and then like as soon as we get off Discord chat, I Google it, and it's only in this one specific spot, that even though it says it's everywhere. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
That's just Pokemon, to be fair. It's not that game specifically, but
it's kind of shiny rock rep. But that's the point.
Even with all that, I am up to like 300 or 400 hours in both versions total now, from like shiny hunting and all that kind of weird stuff. Like doing a lot of stuff I never really cared to do in other Pokemon games, just because it's more accessible now. Like I will fully EV train up a Pokemon just because it's a few item pushes now, and like actually think about that stuff.
And it also hides behind some of the worst gameplay in the series. One of the most interesting stories.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's the biggest like shame I feel with that game for other people is we were talking about this in my server, so I'm sure that's why it came up. Because I was telling some people recently, like I can't recommend Scarlet Violet to the average layperson. Like maybe they'll enjoy it, right? But the story in it, I feel actually did a really good job of balancing the darker things Pokemon has tried to do now and then, but not being so lighthearted and kiddie at the same time that either end of that spectrum gets taken away from too much. And the final few hours of that game actually have a really interesting plot that I'm like still thinking about a year later, and
if the
waiting
DLC,
for it to wrap up. Yeah,
if the second DLC doesn't land,
that DLC lands. Yeah,
if that DLC doesn't land, I'm taking all of what I said back. I'll be frank, because they set up such an interesting premise that if they don't follow through, if they just drop that and say, "Oops, it's all the turtle guy," that's it.
It's all Wo Chien.
It's all Wo Chien. Then I will take it all back. Because man,
take it all back. Sorry.
They have such a good opportunity here to actually like capitalize on some of the threads that they have laid, and if they don't do it, oh man, it's gonna be so disappointing.
Because that just ruins ruins the entire main plot like retroactively, because it's sitting right there. They shouldn't have the DLC be the thing to address the plot as they're setting it up, but of course that's how it works nowadays. I'd rather have that than a third version anyway at this point. So whatever. Chris, what was your first or only maybe game that lost you, and how do you think it could win you back? Because I know you kind of empathize with all of these besides maybe Pokemon. But even then,
I've had like a less turbulent path with Pokemon, but I've definitely had some rough spots with it, like you did. Mine, when I had to think of something other than Assassin's Creed, was actually, the more I thought about it, the Forza Horizon games, which I had cited initially as like a huge comfort food game for me. Like every time a new Forza Horizon game came out, I was happy. I would just kick back. I would jump into the game and play it, and I'd go along all the roads, and you get a little thing that ticks up at the top. It's like, oh, you've been on 37 of the 518 roads. And I'd be like, yeah, that feels good. I'm just filling in the map and all the weird open world stuff. I really, really, really loved that in the first two entries. But I was looking at my achievements and everything and thinking about the recent entries. I only got 3 achievements in Forza Horizon 5. Like, I think I played 20 minutes of that game. Wow. Despite it taking place in Mexico and looking like absolutely stunningly gorgeous and all this stuff, I just felt nothing. And I think I am just done with it and tired of it kind of just being exactly the same thing each game.
That's kind of how I was with Need for Speed, which is why I kind of kept that away from like being one I would talk about, because there's not really much to fix it. It's just kind of, hey, it's the same and there's nothing to change. It's just done.
Yeah, right. Like I won't expect Forza Horizon 6 to shake it up either, right? But it's a weird thing where I think they've improved the feel of the game and the structure and all this stuff from each game. But there's some stuff about that first game I kind of miss too, because it didn't necessarily have a story, but it had like an actual rival character who was your stereotypically grown-worthy, like, I'm such a cool racer and I've got like, you know, I could get chicks or whatever because my car is real fast, but it at least gave you something to work toward in beating him. And like I remember the final race against the rival, it takes place like across the entire map basically, and you hit this highway. You just have this weird like 5-minute stretch of race against a rival, and I'm like, I haven't felt that in one of those games since that, right? And with car games in general, you're into main Forza Gran Turismo, or you're into like a weird middle ground WRC game, or you're into weird offshoot hardcore sim stuff. And I feel like we lost somewhere kind of what you were getting at, that kind of weird middle ground where it's not open world, but it's not circuit based, purely simulation track based driving game.
I liked small to medium open worlds with custom street races that were just there. I really enjoyed that vibe. I know Burnout Paradise is that. I know that's why they got the Burnout, or I know that's why Criterion got the Need for Speed nod anyway, because it was always selling better than Burnout. I've never really played a lot of Burnout Paradise, mainly because I think of Burnout as like, I want the explosions. So I know Paradise has that, but it's hard to sell a game based on really cool explosions when the car manufacturers say, hey, maybe don't do that.
Yeah.
So
we don't want people to see our car blow up and think that could be them.
Especially in 4K when people will play as real life. You know?
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I was just thinking how I'd fix it. And I feel like the only way to really fix it would be to just buck everything it is. Because if you don't know, they're called Forza Horizon because there's a Horizon festival, like an EDM rave nighttime. Like, what's the Las Vegas one? I'm blanking.
Burning
Coachella.
Coachella.
I forgot about Coachella because we co-opted it and made it better, right? So it's like
Coachella,
that,
but with cars. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a weird thing where you drive by and there's EDM and people being total like 23-year-old douchebags constantly. And I'm just over it. And I'm like, what if there was something other reason for these games to be happening at all instead of this weird? I even like raves and EDM and stuff, but I'm just like, I just need something different from you. And these weird.
Chris at a rave.
Imagine me at a rave, man. You could see it.
It'd be Forza Horizon 6.
He's just staring into the abyss and chewing.
No, never.
I'm just thinking of Crubcella, like the.
That is what Chris was doing at Crubcella.
Like when I was in the corner chewing. Yeah, no,
no.
We broke the
with you and your little ottoman. Yeah, when someone threw an ottoman across the room, that was fun.
Not like a small ottoman, like the whole couch. Like
Windows broke. But I don't know. It's a weird thing where just the feel of the cars and driving and everything. And something else I was chewing on too. Our friend of the show, Mini Me. I did not intend that pun.
Chewing. I was like, wait a minute.
I did not intend that pun. But anyway, something Mini Me was saying a while ago that I disagreed with initially, but over time I actually totally agree with more and more, is that the game just hands you great cars basically near immediately. There's nothing to work toward because you can so immediately get an incredible car that handles incredibly well. And I think I just want to feel like I earned it instead of just like, oh, it's a dream car and I have it now into the game.
That was what I liked about. Sorry, no, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'll let you go because I just need to feel a progression, right? Like I want to feel like I've accomplished something by the end.
Yeah, I was going to bounce off that and say that's what I liked about like Need for Speed Most Wanted is I always started with like the Cobalt SS, and I took that car the whole way. I just upgraded its engine. I put the Bugatti engine in there, and I just made it faster and faster, and it won. And I really liked that because it was like I had other cars that I would still upgrade, but I liked being able to take one car and progress and have to fight for it. And that was the thing that even like Carbon, the next game, failed at because you needed a tier 2 car to beat the boss at tier 1. You needed it. You could not do it. The game rubber banded you too hard. And stuff like that always like really soured me. And even the bit of Forza Horizon I played, because that was one of those that you had recommended to me in the way back when we were talking about this sort of stuff. Yeah, I had played a little bit of, I don't know, 4 maybe. I don't know, one of them. No, it was 4. 4 was the weather one.
4 was Britain and Seasons. Yeah.
So 3, if it was anything.
Yeah.
Either way, I played it for like 20, 30 minutes, and I was in the middle of nowhere driving around, and I'm like, oh, it's cool. I can go off road, but like,
why?
Like, yeah, like what's the, what, I don't care.
Yeah. That was 3's whole thing was off-roading in Australia, which sounded awesome. That sounded like it would shake things up. And then
I don't know if it was fun, then Minnie would be telling me about how he did it.
Gosh. He's probably DMing you right now.
Silly.
Like it's awful. God. So I had a patient who used to play Horizon or Forza Horizon. And, also for those of you who don't know, I work with people with special needs, so I just refer to them as patient. But I had a patient who used to play Forza, and I don't know, like, so when I used to watch him play, sometimes he would like find cars in like barns and stuff like that. Is that something you can do in the new game or no?
Yes.
The barn finds. There's always some guy with a thick European accent being like, "Oh my god, you got the barn finds. Good job, mate." And you just so stroll up on a barn and there's a car.
Why are there so many barns?
Everyone's just leaving $1 million cars in their barns for years. It's like, oh man, we heard about this incredible Bugatti in the countryside. You better go get it. No one else wants it.
I want this to be realistic, where like you find a Corvette sitting in a barn somewhere, and you try to turn it on, and it's dead.
A rat jumps out at you.
The battery's dead. The engine is rotted out. Like, I want it to be trash. Which I think they do sometimes actually do. They give you like husks in 3, where they're like, "Oh, you found the husk of an old Mustang. Pay us money, you can fix it." And I'm like, "What? Why?"
Oh, is there like a DLC thing to be like where you could buy more cars?
No, it was like in-game money. It was like you'd find like the
I was going to say that'd be
of
like
this car would be good if you spend 40,000 credits. And I'm like, I'm supposed to be going to a music festival. What?
I
Why do I have 40,000
credits?
I almost wish they did a crazy thing and just popped open Power Wash Simulator. It's like, oh, now you've got to clean the car, mate. Like, at least then you
go
get to
full
like
Yakuza, just make a bunch of stupid mini games. No, Forza.
Why not?
In Comrocho.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Forza, Barnyard finds, but the pig from Barnyard's there.
Okay, that too. But hear me out. Forza
hey, folks, viewer real time again.
Because there's 8 square blocks of road. And you just drive down it. Crowded by people, and you just race down that. And it's just, you race down these 10 roads, and you make different tracks, and there's barn finds somehow.
There's always a barn somewhere.
We found one off Nakamichi Street. Get in there, Kiryu.
You found the barn hidden in paradise, in purgatory.
Well, yeah, of course. Okay. No one's inside, by the way.
Oh, this is a bad game. I'd play it.
I love that.
So, I guess that's mine. I don't know.
So I guess
it's so weird not jiving with something that's so incredibly good in every way. Mm-hmm. So much money goes into those games. They have all the car licenses, every dream car you could ever want. And I just realized the other day I hit the point of like I just don't care.
Yeah. And it's a shame because like that's just kind of like, that's why I took the route I did with Pokemon, where I just said, I'm going to not pay attention anymore because it's easier to come back to it instead of swearing off of it and hating it and getting negative about it. Or like with Halo. Like with Halo, I don't think about Halo anymore because when I do, I get sad. But like, there's no reason to lament about it because they don't care. So why should we? Don't give it your mind space. Don't give it your soul. Let it go. Let it happen, and then down the road, hopefully someone else comes in and says, "Hey, we felt the same way, so we made it good again." And then you're like, "Hey, I would like that very much."
That happens sometimes. What I was going to bring up instead was Harvest Moon: Story of Seasons, and then you get something like a Stardew, where it's like, "Oh, this is everything I ever wanted." Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
When in doubt, make someone make an indie Halo.
Make one person make everything all on his own, and
14 years from now, after you paid $10,000 on Kickstarter, you get the early access.
The other game I was thinking of, which I'm not going to go down a whole tangent with that, was Silent Hill.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, they're bringing it back. Worse.
You know what would be a good accompaniment to that would be Resident Evil, because there are so many bad Resident Evil games from the PS2 into PS3 gen. Like there were I'm not talking like 5 and 6. I'm talking like
that weird multiplayer one that came out on like Xbox Live.
That one.
I don't remember. I can't remember any of the names, but there were like 1,000 of them that you forget exist.
Revelations.
I heard those are all right.
I think everyone said those were okay. I can't think of the really bad one that I'm thinking of, but either way, continue, Sean.
Umbrella Corps.
Oh yeah, no, it was just like I loved Silent Hill 1, 2, and even 3. I think 3 is really underrated. and then they just like over time really lost me. And the last game that I played that I was like, I'm done even spending any money on this was their Wii game Shattered Memories. And I just I did not like that game.
Yeah.
I know so many people are like, oh, well, it's supposed to like use your fears against you. It's just jump scares. You run straight and then you have to use your Wiimote to like go left or right and just it's like a I don't even know.
Did they make it an on-rail shoot or like a rail gallery shooter kind of thing? Like House of the Dead?
Dead Space?
Kinda. It's just I just didn't like it. Like because they had your character like running and you'd have to like dodge obstacles and like jump scares that were coming at you. And then I didn't play the HD remakes that apparently were god awful. PT came out.
There'll be a PS5 and Xbox and Switch downscaled to 30 FPS version coming soon, I'm sure.
Oh.
Can't wait for it. Obviously, PT came out. Love that game. I still have a PS4 with that on it. I refuse to sell it. And then they came out with then they finally announced, Silent Hill F and the one where like people can like vote on what happens in it, which is asinine to me.
They only called it that so you could press F.
Where you can sticker react with its trauma in a glittery, pretty twee font, which is just amazing. But that just feels intentionally upsetting.
Yeah. But that's why I'm like, I don't know what they can do to win me back. Like, it's just, I don't know if they have that same charm to them anymore.
Is there a solution to fix it, to take it out back and shoot it so it can't come back?
Yeah, just like make a spiritual successor at this point.
It's even hard with horror games in general because so many horror games went down the jump scare route over time. And I think it's harder and harder for games to be scary, in my opinion, because you can get so many more interesting visuals now, but you can't really go as much for psychological horror when we're all very desensitized to it. That's why I really liked Alien Isolation.
Yeah, that is my favorite horror.
It goes 10 years for 35 million hours. It's way too long because they're like, hey, we're going to make you scared for as long as we want, and we're going to decide when it ends.
Yeah.
And like, yes, there are jump scares, but they're all earned, And
I think Evil Within also has a couple in there as well, but it's very hard to make like horror games lately. Like, I feel like even like Resident Evil games lately, like Resident Evil Village felt more like action adventure-y with some horror elements than horror in general,
I honestly think that if you play The Last of Us 1 and 2 actually on like hard, that gives you the same sort of tense experience as like not the same as Alien Isolation, but it gives you the closest thing that you can get towards that level of being uncomfortable at all times. Because I always feel tense when I'm playing Last of Us 1 on harder difficulties. Not that I play it that often, but it's one of the few games that ever really made me feel that way. I don't usually feel tense when I'm gaming because my brain doesn't think that way. I'm just like, oh, even if I'm immersed, it's fake. I grew up watching wrestling. I know it's fake.
Gosh. You can't stop getting worked into a shoot.
Speaking of something that's not fake, our wonderful patrons who had a question of the week for us. Again, if you join that founder tier for $5 a month over at patreon.com/Crub, you can fill out our Patreon question of the week Google form thing, and we will ask one of those questions every single week here on air. You can even ask multiple questions if you want, and we might only pick one, but we'll still, it'll be on the list. We have a whole spreadsheet of questions forever as my screen goes blurry. Haha, there we go. Chris, did you pick out the question for this week?
Yes, I did.
All right.
This question comes in from Tabreez. Thank you, Tabreez, who asks, should either Sly Cooper or Jak and Daxter make a comeback? If so, what would be your approach for either? I'm going to take this in a you pick one, if any at all, direction, because I feel like the default answer is, of course, yeah, why not? Why not both, right?
Yeah.
But also, maybe my answer is no to both. I'm going to be controversial and say it. It's done. It's dead. It's buried. No more. Why would it come back? Please discuss.
Justin, what do you think?
No.
Why would you ask me?
Justin.
Because you've played Sly Cooper 1.
Yeah, I played Sly Cooper 1, and that's it. You know what? Yeah, I'll go. I'll join Chris. Jak is dead. We already had a big character and sidekick. We didn't need another.
I shouldn't have been on this podcast. I knew this was coming.
I'm a bull.
I'm a bull.
I think my feeling about it is just like I had to learn this lesson the hard way a long time ago and finally just realize it. But like the Naughty Dog of today is not the Naughty Dog of 20 years ago. So to ask them to make a Jack and Daxter is asking the night shift cook to remake the meal the day shift cook made, right? Like it's someone else. They got their own ideas.
Gamers are the only group on earth that seem to think this way. I think it's because like film studios are normally more like, hey, here's the director. Game studios have a company name and we all get attached to it. Insomniac is one of the few studios that has a lot of people from the early days still working there. Which would be an exception. In Insomniac's case, I'm not saying this is the case, but generally it's probably not a good thing to have the same people that were working when they were 20 still working there at 50, because they're probably now out of touch with what makes things tick. That was an issue, as I went into in my Ratchet & Clank retrospective series, of multiple people involved in production that were there from the start or from the early days that got moved up through tenure, not through merit, that caused issues in production of games. And they learned from that because they're somehow a really well managed studio that even when they're managed poorly, they learn and they're like, oh, we made a mistake. Let's fix that. That's rare. But like Naughty Dog, I think there's probably like 5-10 people that are there that worked on Jack, and one of them's Neil Druckmann. One of them is the other president of Naughty Dog who is still there. Not Wells, the other one. Is it Wells?
One of them announced they were retiring, and I lost the plot at that point. Yeah, I was just like, I don't know.
In that case, then he's gone too, actually, because the other one left and went over to THQ and then Meta, so he's at Meta. Whatever the case, like there's very few people that still work there that worked even on Uncharted. Like the turnover of these companies is always high. It's never not going to be high because these are very stressful jobs. You work day in, day out. With or without crunch, you're still going to work day in, day out for 3-4 years on the minutia, the stuff that we don't ever think about and see. It's stressful. It sucks. Game development sucks. It's why I didn't go into that role when I started studying for my degree, because I was like, no, I want to make money. So I'm going to go into regular computing as a field instead of game design, because screw that. You can even look at the Jack 4. You know what, Chris, vamp for a sec.
You can even look at the Jack 4 that Naughty Dog was thinking about making, spearheaded by seemingly people who would come in later, whether they were fans of the original or not, or looking to make their own stake in it and maybe take it in a new direction. Kevin's back just in time for video viewers and see what they were thinking. And the answer is, oh my god, it's weirdly realistic. He looks like a Final Fantasy character.
No, he looks like James Franco.
Oh my god.
Oh, good for him.
This is the one piece of concept art for Jack 4 that exists. In the show notes for the audio realm, you'll have a screenshot linked of it.
Yeah.
This was the one concept for Jack 4 that was going to exist. There's actually a few. There's a few on the back as well that I can't really show super well. It's just super realistic, and Daxter looks like a friggin' Monster Hunter character. It's stupid. It's dumb. That was their idea. That was like, this is what we should do. Because none of them had designed cartoony characters in the last 5-6 years by that point. And they said, what if we don't do that because we're not qualified? And they made The Last of Us and changed the trajectory of gaming forever instead. Naughty Dog should not make Jack ever again. They know that. They're smarter than that. Jack should stay dead. Jack was a directionless franchise to begin with. I'll stand on that hill.
I think Slash should just be a TV show, honestly.
I think so too, but not the one they're making. Or they were making.
Yeah. And
like, that's a way to get like interest back in the series, because like at this point, people who are young don't know what Sly is, and the people that are old enough to remember Sly, those games aren't made for them, so they're just gonna be mad that they don't get what they want.
If hypothetically down the road we ever get the chance at true PS3 emulation and we get the Sly 1 through 4 on PS5 or 6 through native emulation instead of streaming, and they maybe even re-release them in that form, there's a chance. I think it's hard. It's a hard sell to say, "Hey, play 4 games on Bentley's Hack Pack, so 5 games before you dare."
Never forget Bentley's Hack
Sly
Pack.
5. If you forget Bentley's Hack Pack, I'm coming for you. Don't you dare.
Bentley's Hack Pack saved the PS3 store from the shutdown. I'll say it.
Single-handedly. Without that game, there's no chance. Yeah, no, I would like Sly to come back, but I don't see a world where it makes sense unless they reboot it. We've said that time and again. Jack should not come back because there's no realm where you can't just reboot it, because even from Jack 2, they didn't know what they were doing. They immediately pivoted after Jack 1 and scrambled and changed the entire story around, and they did it again in Jack 3 to salvage what they had from Jack 2, and they just never had an idea of what they wanted to do with it, and they shouldn't. I don't know how you do it otherwise, because the worst Jack game, the Lost Frontier, the one that everyone says killed the series, it's really, really bad, the person who wrote the story treatment was one of the only people left that still worked at Naughty Dog at the time when he passed that story treatment along. He was working on writing Uncharted 2, 3, and The Last of Us. That's Neil Druckmann. Mm-hmm. Don't use that as a flame fuel for hating that man. It's just an example of, what do you do with a guy that you make God in Game 2? What do you do with a species that's God in Game 3? You don't do anything. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's done.
If
what
I
a
were
positive
hopeful,
way to end this episode.
Yeah.
If I were hopeful, Sly would be the better series, but I don't know. Yeah. I'm a Sly 4 was good actually kind of person, but
same.
I look at the rest of the fan base. I'm like, the only option is for someone else to come in and make it again, right? Whether it's Sanzaru somehow through magic or another team again. And
yeah,
because Sanzaru is owned by Facebook now.
Yeah, they're in the Facebook meta void of who knows what the hell they've done in the last few years. Probably VR.
Yeah.
But
it's just, well, even the Ratchet games, they get flack for being not what people want from 20 years ago. Like, what do you want? They're
getting beautiful, feel good, great responsive control games, and they're still not happy with it. God forbid Jack and Daxter, whatever the hell that would be.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
People that want a Jack 5 don't remember what the hell the first 4 games were. Like, there's no way. Jack X is the best Jack game. It's not even close.
God. Oh, speaking of, I just realized I didn't answer because ADHD hit. Fun. Yeah, Jack and Daxter is dead. I really like those games, but yeah, it's gone and it ended, and I think we should just let it end. And Sly Cooper, I played the first one, but I know that 4 leaves off the cliffhanger, and also 4 was led by a lot of people that didn't work on the first couple games, so it just kind of chaotic.
3 was also ended on a cliffhanger, which is why 4 started off on the wrong foot, because they had to answer 3's cliffhanger, because as much as people give flack to Sanzaru for Sly 4 having a story that was a little messy at points, and it was, they had to pick up after Sucker Punch ended Sly 3 knowing that they would never work on Sly again on a cliffhanger, on a time machine cliffhanger.
They did the successful next step of Naughty Dog being like, let's make a racing game with an alien in it. People will hate that and never want to play Crash again.
They honestly, they
took that and were like, all right, let's top that. Let's make sure nothing can ever happen with this series again.
I just want Uncarded, man.
Yeah.
Fuck screw Jack. Screw Jack. Give us Uncarded.
Yeah.
Again, what a positive way to end. What a positive way to end this. Yes.
I hope to eat
What a positive way to end these games.
Someday.
Yeah.
If there's a Jack 4 someday and it's awesome and makes me care about Jack, everyone wins. Same with Sly.
Yeah.
I want to be wrong, but I'm reading the tea leaves the way they're laying right now, and it's not looking good for the home teams on this one.
You reboot them both. There's no other way.
Yeah.
And maybe that's cool.
What do you do with rebooting Jack? Like,
God
you reboot Jack and it's just poor man's Banjo-Kazooie.
I was just gonna say make Jack just God of War, where like Daxter's dead and he has to like bury his ashes.
Okay, I'm listening.
Jack's hand is sadly on a tree.
Yeah.
Like the little Praxis.
He's got a son named Daxter who's just as annoying.
Oh my god, yeah, with like the same mohawk and everything. You know what? Bring back Jack.
Turns into a bear for some reason.
That's in the sequel.
I don't care.
Well, yeah, but we'll get there. We'll get to Jack 2 again.
I'm writing down Jack of War for a future episode topic. That'll be good.
God.
I think we're onto something.
Put that under Charlie in the Esports Factory.
Yep, no, Charlie in the Esports Factory. Yeah.
When that episode drops, everyone will see my vision. Is all I'm going to say.
That episode is like, you know, the Utopia meme. That's when we drop that episode. That's that right there.
When we drop the Charlie in the Esports Factory.
'Cause I got a golden graphics card. Hey, thanks for hanging out, everybody. I don't think we have anything to plug, so thanks for hanging out and listening to us. We'll be back next week to another episode of Crubcast.
Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.